oh boy, did that escalate quickly. How is it going, everybody? Sean Ross here, and this is going to be my review of RWBY, Volume 5, Chapter 8, entitled Alone Together. And like I just stated, I was not expecting this chapter, Chapter 8, to go where it ended with the cliffhanger. Like, I liked the somber, slow moments at the beginning with Yang and Weiss, because I've noticed right now, ever since they've kind of reintroduced and brought together Yang and Weiss, their characters, we're getting a lot more development with them, because we've never really seen these two characters interact, which I am really liking, and I really liked the nice moment we had with both of those two characters. But then moving over to the Blake and Ilia section and the White Fang attacking the Belladonna household, oh man, that ending section I absolutely loved, because I have been speculating, I think many of you guys as well have been speculating on what type of faunus Ghira is. Like, what are his features? What special traits does he have? Because we know he's some type of cat faunus, whether it be lion, tiger, panther, puma, whatever it may be, but we got to see him unleash the beast by the ending parts of this episode, because we always see Ghira as this passive, very non-violent type character, but now all cards are off the table. He unleashes the claws, takes off his jacket, and is about to go in against Corsic and Finnick. And I'm still wondering right now, it's still up in the air, but I can totally see Ghira going out by the ending of this volume. Hopefully, Kali ends up staying alive, but I can definitely see Ghira biting the dust. But I still loved that moment, because there's this one moment in that ending scene where he just gut punches one of the random White Fang fodder and then grabs his head while he's in midair and slams him down to the ground. I absolutely loved that moment. But we just gotta rewind a little bit and just go through the events of this week's latest chapter of RWBY. But just one other thing I do want to mention before we go through this chapter is that I was really hoping that we were going to have Raven's camp, because I was expecting a maiden v maiden brawl with Cinder going up against Vernal. Hopefully with chapter 9, that's where we end up going, but I still enjoyed the events of this week's latest chapter. So we're gonna be talking about that Yang and Weiss moment during the beginning portions of this episode, and then we'll work our way to the Blake and Ilia conversation, because the reveal during the Ilia conversation, we do have to talk about that. So we start off with this week's latest chapter with our three main RWBY girls of RWBY, Weiss, and Yang just sitting out in front of their chateau in the early morning, just enjoying each other's company and enjoying a nice cup of coffee. And I really do like this moment, just getting to see these three girls together, but I'm really looking forward to that moment once Blake finally comes back and we have our four main RWBY girls together. But speaking of Blake, she actually gets brought up during their little conversation where RWBY is like, I really wish Blake was with us right now. And it's at that moment where the suppressed rage of Yang finally kind of bubbles to the surface, and we come to see how Yang right now has been viewing Blake this whole time, ever since she kind of ran off and just kind of abandoned them. And in all honesty, I was expecting this from Yang's character. Ever since Blake kind of took off on her own and left Yang, I was expecting Yang to have some anger and resentment for Blake, you know, just leaving her and just going out on her own. And after she kind of left Weiss and RWBY and went back to her room, I was either expecting RWBY or Crow to step in and kind of talk with her and kind of get to the bottom of all that suppressed rage. But I was pleasantly surprised to actually see Weiss come in. And what I'm really loving right now about Volume 5, ever since they kind of had Yang and Weiss reunite, they're having a lot more character moments between these two characters, because we didn't really get to see Yang and Weiss interact all that much on a character development level back during like volumes 1 and 3. So I'm really glad right now that Rooster Teeth is taking the time with Weiss and Yang to develop these characters, but not only as teammates, but also bring them together as close friends, because with their conversation that they had, you know, we had Yang just basically spouting out all the stuff that has happened to her throughout her entire life, her mom leaving, Summer leaving, you know, leaving RWBY without her mom, Ty always being busy, and her just basically being there to pick up the pieces and kind of just keep moving forward, and no one being there for her to actually say like, hey, are you okay? So I'm really glad that we kind of got that from Yang's perspective, but also Weiss allowing Yang to understand where she came from, because Weiss's household and her family is not the greatest family that ever lived within the world of Remnant. But coming to learn from Weiss how the Schnee family kind of grew separated and distant over the years, I actually really enjoyed, and we come to learn just a few new pieces of information about how her high society living wasn't really all it cracked up to be. And the one person that I was really glad we learned a little bit more about was Weiss's mom, because there has been speculations that Weiss's mom has been an alcoholic and kind of grew into becoming an alcoholic ever since she kind of married Weiss's father. And just coming to hear how she started out with glasses of wine and then just developed into drinking bottles of wine, this all kind of goes back to volume 4 when there was that little piece of dialogue about Weiss's mom drinking in the garden. So it is in fact confirmed that Weiss's mom is an alcoholic, which makes a lot of sense considering she is married to Jacques Schnee. She needs all the alcohol she can get. But I do really like this character moment between Yang and Weiss, because we really don't have these deep conversations between these two characters, and it's allowing them to kind of grow closer, not only as teammates, but as friends. And I do really like, too, that Weiss is telling Yang, like, don't give up on Blake just yet. Sure, we don't really know her perspective. We don't really know what she's been through. She is a very guarded person. She puts these walls up, and during the fall of Beacon, all of those walls came down, and she really didn't really know what to do. So have faith in Blake. She will return, and when she returns, we will be there for her. So I really did like that moment between Weiss and Yang. I'm really glad we had it. But this beginning section was the somber and slower moments of this week's chapter. But once we switch over into the Blake and Ilia conversation, but then also the White Fang attacking Blake's family home, that right there, that's when this episode kicked into high gear, and I loved the reveals and just getting to witness Ghira unleashing the beast. And there are a couple things within this section with Blake that I am very proud for her character that she did within this chapter. For one thing, and one thing in particular, I am really glad that she ended up telling Sun about her secret meeting with Ilia. She did not go alone, and once things kind of went south, Sun was there to back her up and get her out of that situation. So I am really proud of Blake within that moment, not keeping it a secret, and actually, you know, allowing Sun to help her within this situation and hopefully save Ilia out of the clutches of the White Fang. But at this point, it kind of seems that Ilia might be irredeemable at this point. Maybe not just yet, but if she continues down this path and doesn't, you know, end up switching sides, I don't see Blake being able to save Ilia out of the clutches of the White Fang. And I'm really glad that we got to see Brother Yuma pop up within the story again, because I was really hoping he wasn't going to be a one and done character. His dragon slash bat wings, his overall design, whatever type of faunus Brother Yuma is, I'm really glad we got to see him pop up yet again within this chapter. But also we got the introduction of a new type of faunus, a spider faunus from Sister Triffa. Very cool design. She can shoot spider webs out of the palm of her hands. Overall, love this design. I just love that we're just expanding on the type of faunuses that actually exist within the world of Remnant within RWBY. It is very, very cool. But as we kind of move forward within this section of the chapter, at first I thought we kind of got a confirmation about how Blake was going to make her way to Mistral, like she was going to get captured by the White Fang and then hand-delivered to Adam, who was in Mistral. But that was actually not the case. It was kind of like a misdirect. But the big reveal that we're definitely going to have to talk about for this section of the chapter deals with Ilia's character. And in all honesty, I think this part of the section was handled very, very well, because I believe this is the first time with either a main character or a big secondary character within RWBY actually coming out as either a gay or lesbian character. So as it is basically revealed within this chapter, Ilia loves Blake. And now I've kind of had my suspicions that this might be the way that Rooster Teeth and the crew behind RWBY might go with Ilia's character, but I gotta say, the way that it was actually handled in this chapter I think was done very, very well. And I do really like the added touch of her scales or blotches turning pink as she's telling Blake this, but then as she kind of tries to conceal that, her eyes ended up turning bright pink. So I really do like that added touch, and I also really like that it wasn't like this big thing, this kind of big reveal. It was kind of just blurted out as if it was just a normal thing, and we kind of just moved away from it. But I do really like that Ilia brought it up and was saying, like, you were blinded by your love for Adam, and she ended up getting jealous because Blake didn't look at her the same way that she was looking at Adam. Very nice touch by the crew behind RWBY. You guys did a fantastic job with that scene. But as we kind of move forward with this scene, we have Brother Yuma and Ilia going off, most likely to the Belladonna household, and then Sun comes in and ends up rescuing Blake out of the clutches of the spider faunus. So everyone is caught up to speed. Blake is calling her mom at the moment while Sun is trying to contact the police, and this is when we transfer over to the Belladonna household, where I absolutely loved this moment, just getting to see Ghira unleash the beast. Like, I've speculated that he might have claws. You know, we all speculated, I think, that he was some type of cat-like faunus. Lion, tiger, Puma, whatever it may be. I'm really glad that we just got to see him unleash the beast, because he tends to be viewed as a very passive, non-violent character. But right now, everything is off the table. We see Corsic and Finnick about to fire their weapons at Ghira. He rips off his jacket and he's telling the guards, "Go save my wife," unleashes the claws, and that is the cliffhanger, which I gotta say, such a terrible cliffhanger to leave off on, because I was getting hyped by the ending of this episode. So I can see why Kali ended up marrying Ghira, because you want a strong man like that protecting you, and oh man, he was doing a fine-ass job. So I really enjoyed this episode. Started out slow, but once we got into the Blake section, it really picked up right then and there. But also, we have our first basically legit gay/lesbian character being confirmed, and honestly, it's no big deal. I'm really glad it got confirmed, and I'm really curious to see where the story will go with both Ilia and Blake's character, and whether or not it develops into more of a relationship or if it's just friendship from here on out. I'm really curious to see where it goes, but those are my overall thoughts right now, guys, on RWBY. I know the shippers are going to love the whole thing with Ilia and Blake. They're going to have a field day, but I just want to hear your guys' overall thoughts, theories, speculations, and opinions on this week's latest chapter of Volume 5 of RWBY. Leave those down in the comments below, and I'm really looking forward to Chapter 9. Hopefully, we get a Maiden v. Maiden battle, Cinder versus Vanal. And if we don't get that, I will be a little bit disappointed for Chapter 9, because I am really looking forward to that. So that's going to be it for this video, guys. Until next week, when we have Chapter 9 of Volume 5 of RWBY, I'll talk with you guys then. See you later, guys.